Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Lecture Notes. So today I'll be explaining a partition novel Basti which is written by Intizar Hussain, and in this particular video I'll be explaining chapter 10. So the name of the chapter is Death and Sleep. So Zakir had a routine that the colleges were closed, so every day he used to walk up to Shiraz to meet his friends. But at that point of time there were regular rites and curfew, and amongst all this also they used to meet every day at Shiraz, which clearly shows the level of friendship they had, that in every condition they used to meet daily. So amidst a roar of slogans and rain of bricks, Zakir left the house to reach Shiraz. The curtains were draped and he had to knock twice, and then someone opened the door. Zakir and his friends did not believe that each of them has come, and yet hoped that they should be present there. So clearly, the rain of bricks, that the violence had been started, the curfew were draped, and he had to knock twice, which clearly shows that the shops were not allowed to open, and the shops were not open because of the violence. So clearly it was not the right time to meet anybody, but their friendship was such that they used to meet every day. While they were sitting, Infant said, in Delhi, among all the vulnerable elders of steadfast habits, there was one who came to the friend's house every evening at the same time, knocked on the door, and visited for a while. When the rebellion of 57 came, all the roads were closed. The man of steadfast habits left his house, crawled with great difficulty through trenches and gutters, and somehow managed to arrive at his friend's house at the regular time. So here 1957 refers to the mutiny of 1857 basically, where the India first stood or fought against the Britishers, but it resulted in their defeat only. But it was the first step that the Indians took against the Britishers in the year 1857. So he's telling that at that year also people who were close used to meet daily no matter what the conditions were. And similarly, this is what we are doing, that how much the situation is worse, whether it is curfew or the utter violence, we are meeting daily. Then Sakir friends started calling each other mouse, because mouse are the first ones to leave when there is a problem. So in the last chapter also and in this chapter also, they are calling each other with mouse and not with their name. Like the mouse has yet not come to Shiraz, like this. So they are referring each other to the mouse who's not present in the group. So in the last chapter also, Abba Jan said that there are only few days left, and in this chapter also you will see that again and again he is referring that his death is near. So he says, Zakir's mother, I am putting my affairs in order. When a man rises to depart, he should first straighten the garments. He paused, then said, Thanks be to God, my garments are not too dusty, no property, no money. If there was any, it was left behind back there. There are only these few ancient pages. So he's sorting out what he has, the all wealth that he can distribute to his son, and telling whatever the things that he has in end. So clearly he is portraying that there are only few days left, and he should give whatever he has to his son. And Zakir's mother is not accepting this fact, and she is saying, oh, your mind is full of foolish notions. It is not good to be constantly talking about your death. So clearly she doesn't want to accept the part of reality, and she doesn't believe that it is really coming to an end, because he is not feeling any sickness or he is not ill. But still also he is saying daily now that his death is near. So while he was searching for the papers that he needs to give to his son, he found the keys to Roopnagar. And you will see that how people do cling to memory. This is the line said by Zakir's mother. The day you were thinking about the keys to the mansion, and here they are. So this is said by Zakir's father. that you were thinking about the mansion and you were telling about that how we have kept all the things in storeroom locked. So this is the keys to the mansion as well as to the storeroom where all the important things are. And Zakir's mother lined face brightened. Truly, she looked longingly at the bunch of keys. Well, you won't believe that day when you said you don't know where they were. My heart almost stopped beating. I thought my soul had left my body. So clearly, she is clinging to the old things. Clearly that house do not anymore belong to them. They don't have any right over that property, and if they also think of going there, they can't claim that property. But still, with the possession of keys, she feels that she is holding over to that house and holding over to that precious memory. So how after partition also people have a thought that they might go back to that place, or that place still belong to them. So, while giving Zakir keys to the house, which was in India, Zakir's father says, "Son, these are the keys of a house to which we no longer have any right." And as he was saying this, he collapsed and died. So, this is in this chapter, Zakir's father died, and uh, throughout the chapter he was saying that his death is near and nobody was believing it, but this is the end of his father's life. And the next day Afzal tells few days before his grandmother died, and her last words were, "The floods must be gone, take me home." So the last chapter I had told you that how Afzal grandmother was not ready to leave the house, and they said that the flood is coming, therefore we need to leave the house. And after reaching to the new house, grandmother used to ask everyone daily that the floods might have been gone back and we should return to our home. So clearly, the old people believed the home is a place where they had spent their years, or that is their homeland is their home. But after the partition they had to make a new house, but to make that house a home is totally different thing, and they were unable to accept this, that this house in the new place is their home now. So finally a letter from Delhi arrived, a letter which Zakir had wrote to Surinder and was expecting a reply that where is Ammi Jan's sister Batul is. That is Sabira's mother, to know about Sabira's mother. So I've exactly copied the letter. Dear Zakir, if I haven't answered your letter, the reason is that I wasn't in the country. I was traveling in Europe. So this letter has been written by Surinder to Zakir. I was traveling in Europe for a long time. When I came back, I found your letter. Your mother must be eager to have news of Sabira's family, but Sabira hasn't been able to get any word of them either. I mentioned your letter to her. She said nothing. She burst into tears. I was astonished. During those days when the worst news kept coming from Dhaka, I always found her calm, but today she burst into tears. I didn't understand, but it made me said to her, "My friend, may I say one thing? Don't take it amiss. You are a cruel person, or perhaps now that you are in Pakistan, you have become so. Your surrender." So the first thing that you can notice is that he doesn't have any information. Sabira doesn't have any information about the mother. And secondly, how Surinder has straightforwardly said that you have turned out to be the cruel person, because he might have said this because uh, Zakir never asked or wrote a letter to Sabira to know how she is living alone in India. Earlier in his childhood, in the first 5 chapters, he wanted to have a romantic relationship with her, which was not possible. Which and after that, he completely devoid her. He did not only ask that how she is. So clearly, how Pakistan has completely changed him, that he is not able to communicate also with his Indian friend who is living in India. So while reading the letter, Afzal came. Zakir was just thinking on which grounds is he cruel, because Sabira could also write the letter, but she also did not write it. Fearful why? Then Zakir mentioned that he feels very much fearful and he hears voices, which clearly shows his mental trauma, that how they are living in such violence and everybody's mind is facing some kind of trauma. Fearful why? Yeah, I hear voices. Voices? What kind of voices? That's what I don't understand. Suddenly I was afraid there might be a hurricane and a loud cry might come and carry me away. So clearly, carry me away symbolizes that how everyone wants to reach a peaceful place because they have been going through so much riots, violence, and everything. Initially, before partition in India, they were facing the same thing. After partition, living in Pakistan, they're again facing the same kind of violence. So, in many centuries, they haven't uh, feel a satisfied, peaceful moment. So Zakir had another vision. He was in cave with his friends, and Afzal's snores woke him up, and he felt that Afzal is sleeping so soundly as if he has been asleep for 700 years. Everyone felt the other was changing, but in reality, everyone was changing with time and situation. So anybody could not notice that we are also changing with time. What they could notice is the other is changing. So this is the quality of human, that he doesn't recognize what he is doing, but he easily recognize that what the other person is doing. Then Zakir felt that the sweet song of the flute has been broken off, no feeling of devotion anywhere, land and water muddied and mingled, men and women distraught. People have left their houses the way they had flee from their houses during an earthquake, women as pure as Savitri and their saris torn to shreds. Happy wives were turned into widows, laps that had held babies were empty. So clearly his reality is overpowering in his fiction also, that when he is having a dream or a vision, he it is not devoid of the war or the consequences of war. In his visions and dreams also, there is overpowering of all the wrong things that is happening, whether it what are happening with the people or the widows or the women or the mothers, that how every person is suffering because of the war and how they are devoid of the love of their close ones. So in the last, he says, he was standing in the cave and he said, I marveled, O Ram, what mystery it is. So as a Muslim who is now asking or thinking about the Indian God, because in the initial chapter when he was living in India, he used to listen stories of Indian mythology. So clearly he is relating to that point. He says, O Ram, what mystery is this? What the worry? I turned back so I could say, "Oh, people of Dwarka, Dwarka is the place where Indian god Krishnji lived." And so he's almost taking all the names of Indian god and saying, "Here you are fighting to the death, and now I've realized that in the end too there is only water. The source is water, the end is water. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti." Water here might be referred to death, that everything will end only with everyone's death. And Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti is a chant which is an invoice for the peace to God. So this line, Om Shanti, Shanti, is present in many poems like T.S. Eliot, Wasteland. This chant is mentioned in that poem also and in various poems also. And this shows that he is so much desperate for peace that he is asking for Indian gods now, that he's praying to Indian god for peace. He's invoking Indian god for peace, which refers to Om Shanti Shanti. So thank you for watching this video. Do like and subscribe my channel.